Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. Oh wait, where am I? Wait, where? I'm just kidding. I'm here. Just a little Halloween fun. Welcome back. It's Monday night, which means we're doing another live Q&A. In the spirit of Halloween, we have our witch's brew and a spooktacular cupcake. We'll have that later. And we're doing horror stories, or really they're war stories, but I'm calling them horror stories for tonight. And they're mostly true tales. I've changed the names, probably the locations, just to keep people safe, if you will. Let's go to the chat and see who's here tonight. Looks like we have Not Terrible by Good Monkey. Welcome to the chat. I think you're new to the channel. I appreciate it. David is in Denver for work. Welcome back, David. Joe, welcome back. Hey, Tony, you made it. I didn't think you were going to make it tonight. Or am I just thinking of something different? Not Terrible by Good Monkey says, I worked on ATC radios, have done frequency management, will be looking for a job soon. Well, I hope you find this stream interesting. We go live every Monday night. Usually it's about television, radio, whatever is on the topic of the week. This week it's horror stories, so I hope you find it interesting. I do have some notes so that I can actually reference them. So if you see me looking over here, you're looking at my notes. And some of these stories have pictures, some do not, so we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit. But I hope you enjoy. I have, at this point, 14 stories to tell. Some are short, some are long. So let's get started. So my first horror story is a physical horror story. Back in college, I was working at Dance Marathon, which is a student-run organization that basically raised money for children's hospitals in the area, or a children's hospital in the area. And it was a 33-hour-long event. Well, the event was 32 hours. We decided, as students, to broadcast 32 hours because, why not? Let's broadcast the whole thing. Actually, we started before, so it was 33 hours. Yeah. Anyway, so we're doing this broadcast. It's all student ran. We're staffing 4-hour blocks all night long. It's been a long day of prepping on Friday, showing up early on Saturday. We, start broadcasting. I think it was 10 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. I forget exactly. We went to the following evening about 6 o'clock. So from Saturday morning till Sunday night. And of course, by Sunday night, you're dead tired. You've been working, or at least we've been working most of the night. I actually went home and got some sleep, but my friends stayed there and worked all night long. Those tapes are somewhere on VHS. I would love to go back and watch them because it has to be interesting how they filled 33 hours of television without leaving the room is kind of beyond me, but we did it. And so anyway, so we're broadcasting this thing. Of course, it's over, and now it's time to tear down. And as the lead technical person, I was trying to kind of tear down, and I was really tired, so I kind of wanted to get out of there early. So I decided to, grab the nearest ladder I could, and it wasn't really a ladder. It was actually a volleyball stand. So it was like a little riser that you walk like 4 steps up to, and you stand there for volleyball. And I grabbed this thing, and I'm trying to grab this cable overhead, and I'm like trying to fish this cable off of this thing, and I start going back. And now, I should have prefaced this story with, I had knee surgery a couple years before this for a fall that I had. And so I had gotten over it. It had been a while. But basically it was, I've had knee surgery. So as I'm falling backwards, I land awkwardly on this little ladder thing. And I feel a crack. And I feel hurt. And I'm in pain. And I fall down and I can't talk. And if you've ever, if you remember like the movies or the shows like Baywatch, where they slow everything down and people are running really slow, that totally happened for me. I am sitting on the floor in pain, and I must have said something or did something because people started running towards me, but they were running super slow in my mind. Hey, Jason's Lab, welcome in. So I'm on the ground. Now I'm on the ground. Everyone's asking, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I can't talk. I'm in such pain. My physical knee is just like throbbing. But of course, I had fallen in years past, which means I knew what was happening. And so finally, my friend was like, "We need to call the ambulance." The medical team there is like, "We're calling 911," and I'm like, all I let out is a stop, don't, because I knew what was happened. I just re-injured my knee for the second time in 3 years. Or 4 years. I couldn't talk. I obviously couldn't walk. So I'm sitting there. Finally, the pain subsides enough that I can actually talk. And I'm like, I've had knee surgery before. I have a bad knee. Here's what happened. It'll be okay. Just take me home. So they're like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? You got to sign a medical release form, blah, 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 blah." I think I signed it. I don't remember exactly, but so then they wheelchair me out of this place, which is the recreation center on campus. and some girl who I honestly forget at this point who she was. I had seen her before, but I really wasn't sure who she was. I forget exactly the scenario. She drove me home to my parents' house. My job was in college. And so she's like, "Hi, Jay fell." And, this is awfully fun. So it is the one time in television history that I've actually got injured on the job. And to this day, my knee is still not good. But because I take some essential oils or doTERRA vitamins, my knee pain is a lot less these days than it has been. So that's story number one. When I got physically injured on a job site or on a TV job. Just make sure I didn't miss anything on the chat. Story two. This was a while back. This is probably, Mitt Romney was running for president. That tells you how old this story is. And he was coming to our little town nearby, and our lead anchor at the time was going to interview Mitt Romney for the newscast. And, great big deal. Local anchor gets the presidential candidate, forced to attend an interview. I think we're the only station to get him. It's a pretty big deal. So in the first block of our newscast, our lead anchor is standing out there. "Hey, you got to stay tuned. We're going to have this lead anchor tonight, or this presidential candidate tonight." And so basically, it's a big get. We're out here live. We're broadcasting the whole show from out here. And right before the show started, it was decided we were going to have a guest. Now, if you've learned anything about television or you know anything about television, change is always happening, but change is probably bad for most things, because if you change things at the last minute and you didn't test it or you haven't proofed it out, bad things happen. So in this story, which is true, the photog was like, "Oh, I'll use this mixer. Well, I'll mix the two microphones out at the location we're at." Now, mind you, we're not that far away from each other, but the live trucks are over here. The anchor wants to be, of course, in front of the building where the interview is going to happen, so you can see where we are. We're live on scene. And so I had no way to quickly add a second microphone. So I said, "Great, you can mix it." So he pulls out this mixer that looked like it's from 1980. I kid you not. I don't know how he had it, where he had it stashed, but he did. And it was just like, okay, hold on. That thing is old. Is that going to work? So I was like, well, we don't really have a whole lot of time. We want this guest interview. We kind of need to have this. Hey, Toro, welcome in. And Jason's Lab's doing Katie duty. That was Saturday night for us. Anyway, so the photog grabs this mixer. We plug it in. Doesn't sound good, but of course, the clock's ticking, live television. It's counting down. We got to go. So we get it working where I think it's good enough to go on air. And now we're on the air, and the lead anchor is distorted. It's bad. And I don't remember having the ability to talk to the photog, but I also knew, I got to do something. So I'm in the truck trying to ride the audio levels as best I can to make this sound as good as we can, considering this mixer's in line, and it just sounds bad. Everything's overmodulated. And of course, the first block of a newscast, which is called the A block, is usually a good 8 to 10 minutes long. And this whole block was nothing but this anchor live at this small town. So it's the lead anchor with a bad audio microphone, and we're 8 minutes or 10 minutes of this stuff. And it's just bad. And so when it was done, we basically, we hit that commercial break, and I got out of the truck, and then not my finest moment, we'll put it that way. I run over to the photog, and I say something to the effect of, "What just happened will never effing happen again in my lifetime." And in my memory, I grab this mixer, I unplug it, and I toss it. It's just gone. I'm done. because that thing just killed the first 8 or so minutes of our newscast for no good reason. So I just had to get rid of it. It was just had to be said. Basically, we're not using this anymore. And again, not my finest moment ever, but we had to solve this problem. We had to solve it quickly, and we had to I had to let that person know we're never using that again because that just is not acceptable. The quality was bad, and we just had to get it out of there. So that was story number 2. Haley is back and mocking me a little bit.
Spooky wife.
I told him I had the witch's brew, or the brew and the cupcake.
A what?
Spooky cupcake.
Spooky cake.
The spooky cake, sorry.
A spooky cake.
So Tony's sipping hot cider and rum while passing out candy.
I like his style.
Um,
Did you tell them about your dinner?
no.
Tell them what I made you for dinner.
So because it's Halloween, we had spaghetti and meatballs in the shape of a face with its brains coming out and some garbled teeth and blood. And it was olive eyes. It was pretty fun. So Joe wants to know how far did I throw the mixer. Well, in my story, it was like 20 or 30 feet. I don't actually know how far I threw it, but in my mind, to this day, I just chucked it and it threw it as far as I could. And the funny thing was, in the story, of course, it's presidential season, so we weren't exactly by ourselves. There were people around. Other networks, other TV stations. Again, not my finest moment ever, but it had to be said. Joe says you do that spooky cake well.
You said what?
You do that spooky really well.
Well, thank you.
He wants to know if you can do a witch's laugh. If you could do a witch's laugh. And Jason Lab says you should join us. So. There you go, guys. Okay, so what happened after the mixer was thrown? Well, we only needed the mixer for the first segment because we had two people talking. So we got rid of the mixer. Then we went hardwired microphone right to the truck where I could control it. And then the rest of the show was fine. We never used the mixer again because we just can't. We couldn't. So from then on out, it was fine. But it was the agony of sitting there in the truck for 8+ minutes, knowing this audio is bad, no way to fix it because it's live television. We didn't test it out. We should have, but we just didn't have time because it was a late change. Toro says that laugh was spot on. Jason's Lab says you nailed it. Joe says laughing his you-know-what off. And Tony says, great job.
I love it.
So that's story number 2. I have another story involving Mitt Romney and his presidential campaign, and I actually have pictures this time. So let me cue up the pictures. And let me get the chat off the screen. So, this is the pictures. Mind you, this was a long time ago, so I think cell phones were still shooting 4x3 apparently. So we were at this high school out in the country. I mean, way out in the country. And they had this big stage set up on the right-hand side. You see flags everywhere. You got a press area, all kinds of stuff. It was a very packed crowd. Now, we were there with a bunch of other stations to cover the speech and the local reaction to having a presidential candidate, come to town. Oh, my audio just dropped it like a lot, didn't it? What happened? There we go. So we're out here in this, like I said, it's a country. Um, we're out there quite a ways. So, and this is also the first place I ever saw a drone. This is what the drones looked like back then. I have no idea what this was, but I knew it was a drone and it was cool, so I took a picture of it. No, we never found his binders full of women, Joe. It's a quad. Oh, well, I looked like a drone to me. I guess it's a quad. Either way, I thought it was pretty cool, so I took a picture of it. This was at the audio booth, hence the front of house or FOH box there. And so, anyway, we're at this thing. A couple things I thought was interesting here. We have the big screen that's basically folds up into a trailer. I had never seen one of these before. Thought it was pretty cool. These are very popular now, I guess. There are whole companies that this is all they do is drive around with these big screens. I was, of course, via satellite, and this is just a picture of all the little hops or all the little hills are different satellite shots. One of those is me, right below that arrow. And so we're live out here, and we go live at 5, 6, and then we go live again at 11 o'clock at night. Well, after the first live shots at 5 and 6, I walk up to the platform to talk to our anchor, and I see one of these lying on the ground. And this is a Teradek cell phone based transmitter or unit, and it's on the ground, and of course you see it's not plugged in. So I walk over to the guy and I say, "Is that thing working?" Just out of curiosity. And of course, you probably know the answer. The answer was no, it did not work. So here, this station, not our station, not even from the same city as I'm in, had sent somebody several hundreds miles, I think, to cover this event with one of those units, and it didn't work because it was cell phone based, and there was no cell phone reception in a country field with probably 2,000 people around at least. So this is the first time where I had encountered a cell phone unit like this, and of course it didn't work. Have more stories about that as we go along. But I did think it was pretty cool that even back then they had these things, because this, like I said, this was years ago. And I can't tell if I think it has 3 modems, maybe. Joe, do you know what that unit is? Can you tell? I know you have it. I think you have a Teradek, don't you? Somebody in the chat probably does. Or knows what it is. So yeah, so that would be, another fun story from that one, is basically we're in the back of the stadium. I mean, like the trucks are parked way in the back, so it's a long cable run to get where we're going. And we're in the back, there's 3 satellite trucks, a Porta-John, and 2 Secret Service guys. And they're just standing back there. And I'm like, why are you watching us? Like, we're the media, we've already been approved, we already went through security. Like, why are you watching us? And then I realized if you turn around, there are houses, like 30 or 40 feet away. And I'm betting money they never checked those houses, but those houses had views of the stage. So they were watching the houses, they weren't watching us. But it was just kind of an eerie feeling to realize, like, you're being watched the whole time by Secret Service. And if I remember correctly, this is probably the first or second time I'd ever dealt with Secret Service. I've since dealt with them a lot, and they don't bother me anymore. But at the time, I was like, I don't know, what do I do? How does this work? Secret Service, and gotta go through security and get cleared and all that stuff. Joe says that's a Teradek Bolt. I think you're probably right, Joe. I think that if I rotate the picture, you probably could see what that said. But Anyway, so basically the point of that story is in the country, cell phone reception is bad. I had a hard time making phone calls, and some stations sent that unit to broadcast, and of course it didn't work. And Secret Service is fun to deal with. They're nice guys, but just, you don't know that at first when you're out there. So, okay, story number 4 also involves a cell phone thing, but not the Teradek. This story involves LiveU. I probably told this story before in one of my previous live streams, but we're gonna repeat it again because it's horror stories. So anyway, we had just got LiveU, I think maybe the year before, and people were still very new to this unit, and they didn't understand that it involved cell phones, and they just knew that it worked everywhere according to them. And so we're doing this big story. It involves water and the lake, and so my boss and I are sitting in our office, kind of watching TV, and we get this phone call, and it's, "Hey, why does this LiveU not work?" And we're like, "Well, what do you mean it doesn't work?" Of course, let me look. So LiveU has this cool webpage called LU Central, where you can log in and see specs from the backpack. The backpack reports, how many modems have connections, how good are those connections, how much bandwidth is currently being occupied. And the best part of this, for this story at least, is it tells you where it's at. So we click on the map and we see the little dot, and all you see around it is blue. So somebody had taken LiveU out on a boat in a Great Lake where there are no cell phone towers, and then kind of wondered why it didn't work. So we were like, okay, you got to get closer to land and don't move. Like, if you're gonna for this to work, hold the camera as steady as possible and don't have the reporter move, because the lower the bandwidth, the easier it is to get through, which means if you're not moving a whole lot, that picture will still look decent, or okay at least. So they take the reporter, and of course it's like, "Hey, look over here." And so they pan off and they pan to the water, and of course the live shot just breaks up and it's completely useless. I think it even drops out entirely at that point. And so, but LiveU in a lake, that was definitely a horror story because it doesn't work. It's got to have cell phone reception. So that would be story number 4, horror stories. That these stories are just back there all the time. Like, it's just things like they pop in. It's like, oh yeah, that happened. So a more recent issue, actually one that happened 2 days ago. As you know, we've talked about vMix on the show. We've talked about the production trailer that I built that uses vMix, the one I'm going to build next year that will be using vMix. We're using vMix for a parade in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I like vMix. I use it a lot. It's a great product. It's a great product unless you see this. So this weekend, we were doing a football game, and I went to export something I had done before hundreds of times. Could export this file, no problem, it's no big deal. And I hit export, and vMix just crashed. Completely shut off, went back to the desktop. We lost our live stream. I had no idea why this happened. I mean, I had a feeling, but it was just like, wait, why did this crash? I've done this before. This shouldn't have happened. So, we finished I open up vMix again. We start streaming again. Luckily, we got back pretty quickly. I had saved the settings recently, so we didn't really lose a whole lot of our settings. And we got back up. We finished the broadcast, and I try to hit export again, and instantly it crashes vMix again. And I'm like, what is going on? This is crazy. This shouldn't be happening. So I look up Windows updates, because now I have a feeling, just a gut feeling. And I see where the video driver was pending a restart because the video driver had been updated. So I hit reboot, and of course it does this screen, and it sat on the screen for probably 20 minutes. It was just a long time. Somehow Windows Update had updated the video driver for vMix, which of course vMix uses video card driver. It's a lot because it's video processing. So here we are, in the middle of a stream, and I'm dead in the water because of a driver update. So we've already talked about how for our parade broadcast, the computer will not have internet access so that it can't get updated. Unfortunately, for the football games we do, we kind of need to have internet access because it streams out. So we're kind of hosed there. But for the parade, we are not plugging in internet. We're not going to give it any internet access so they can't do any updates because we don't want that to happen during a 2-hour parade. So let's look at the chat. Toro says Windows fail. Joe says good old Windows. Tony says that sucks. I agree. I really do wish I would love if vMix would produce their product for Linux. I think that would be incredible. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but it'd be incredible if it did because you wouldn't have that issue. So that was story number 5. Now we go on to story number 6. And Haley is laughing in the background. I like Dracula. Is that the first time we've ever had? Actually, yes. I actually do believe that's the first time it's ever failed during a live stream. I've had it act up before live streams. I've had it give me issues. I do not recall it ever crashing during a live stream before, but I could be wrong. But I don't think. Yeah. So it doesn't happen very often, but it definitely can happen, and I still don't understand why. Because even after I reboot the machine, I still can't export clips, which I could 2 weeks ago. So something between 2 weeks ago and Saturday broke the ability to export clips. So I don't understand what happened or why it broke, but Joe wants to know, are you at your cauldron?
Actually, I just put it back in the basement. I do have mine in there.
She just put it away. So
Literally
just put it away. All right, so story 6. And she's doing the Dracula laugh again. So, hey DJ Ware, welcome in. So story 6 is about heat. We have a rack room at work. It's got about 40 some racks of equipment in it. And we have 2 giant air conditioners called CRACs, or computer room air conditioning units. Right, yeah. And they keep the room awfully cold. Most people who walk in this room can't stand it. I, of course, love it, but that's just me. So these units are designed to keep this room extremely cold because every piece of gear that's important to the TV station is in this room. And so one day I get a phone call, and it's some operator, and she's panicked. She's like, we don't have control of the station anymore. And I go, what do you mean you don't have control of the station anymore? She goes, all of our monitors are black. And I'm like, which monitors are you talking about? Because there's 18 monitors, 24. I forget exactly how many monitors are in this room. And the bottom row, which was all the computer screens, were black. And I was like, wait, what do you mean they're black? I don't understand. And she just kept saying that they were off and they didn't work. And a couple of them might have worked, but they weren't the right ones. They weren't the right sources because there's this giant KVM, and the KVM allows you to change what each monitor looks at. It's a matrix KVM, so it's not just a point to point. It's you hit control, and you can pick from a list of devices what you want to look at. So I drive into work. It's a 24-minute drive from here, And I walk in, and of course, yep, she's not wrong. Everything's off or black or in the wrong, wrong computer screen. So instead of being Rapid Play, which was our playout machine, it was like a Windows computer with a login screen. Like it didn't make sense. It was all backwards. And so I'm like, okay, well the KVM must be screwed up. Why is it screwed up? So I go to the rack room, I open the door, and just blasted with heat. I mean, this thing was probably 88, maybe 90 degrees in this room. I mean, it was hot. I mean, and so I was like, well, crap, what the hell? Like, why is this so hot? So the air conditioning units had failed, and nobody noticed for hours. So this room is just cooking all the equipment. So now it's, of course, a mad scramble. What do we do? We open the doors. We have these big fans. We grabbed them out of the studio. We threw them in the room. We blew the air in one door. We blew it in the other door. And it was like trying to get this room cooled down. We also power cycled the KVM and brought it back. And of course, without our Rapid Play machine, we're not really rolling brakes very well. So I think we lost a couple commercial brakes because we just couldn't roll them because we couldn't see the machine to do it. If I remember correctly. And so that was very stressful because I had no idea that heat would cause us to lose the KVM, and only the KVM. Nothing else was acting up, but it was hot in there. I think we ended up doing a reset on the crack unit, and it came back luckily, or I forget what exactly we did, but the horror story was driving in, having no idea why this is down, knowing that we're losing revenue, and not knowing why. And of course, now you walk in and now it's hot. And what are you going to do? Because what else is dead or what else is dying? I mean, like I said, it was a way too warm for this room. And if memory serves me correct, it wasn't too long after this incident where I was in the rack room and I turned around and all of a sudden I see smoke pop out of a computer, and the graphics machine for the control room literally let the smoke out right in front of my face. Like, it just blew up, let smoke out. Of course, it had a horrible, horrible electrical smell that I'm sure you've all experienced at some point. And so I don't know for a fact that was related to the heat. I'm guessing it probably was, but I don't know. It, in my mind, over the time, those two things are related, but I don't know if they actually were or not. So, heat, not a good thing. Speaking of heat, it's not a good thing when it's in your transmitter site either. And I have a picture for this one. So, I forget the complete backstory, but basically, we get notifications we're having issues at the transmitter site. And so we go out there, and both of our units out there are dead. Now, we have two units for a reason. We should have redundancy. I mean, that's why we have two units. Either one of these units should be able to take care of this room by itself. And here we are. Both units are down. We have no way to heat these transmitters that are producing our signal. So we get creative. We take these, we have two doors in the back of the room. We take the windows out of the doors because they have, these two small windows. We grab fans and we put them on filing cabinets or tables and start blowing the air out of the room because we want to pull in air from the different room that has air conditioning. So here we are, and I'm pretty sure it was cold outside, if I remember correctly. Like winter time almost. So here we are, winter time, and yet we're having heating issues because we have too much heat. Not enough, not enough cooling. So we decided we took these units. If you can see the picture, we kind of put like a some sort of fabric over the window to keep the bugs out. And so we're blowing heat out of the doors, and then we're trying to suck air in from a different room that has its own air conditioning unit. Now, this unit obviously wouldn't handle the whole load, but we figured that by blowing the heat out and at least sucking air in from the other room, we would get it to a point where the units weren't going to get hot and destroy themselves. So, of course, we called our HVAC company, and if memory serves me right, they couldn't make it out till the next day. So we left it like this all night. We just, left these fans blowing the hot air out. That's why, of course, we had the bug screens on. And so we left it like this all night, and it kept it cool. I mean, it wasn't cool or cold, but it was definitely cool enough where we weren't worried about our 5 kilowatt transmitter frying itself. And of course, they let you know if there's issues. I got a transmitter right now, and the radio station that's basically having issues, and it's emailing me saying, "Hey, I'm over temp," or "Hey, I got a power supply down." So they don't like it when things get out of whack, and they definitely will let you know. And this one was letting us know. So let's go back to the chat and see where we are. Tony says, oops, let me go back to myself. Tony says, remove Windows Update and see what happens. I don't think that's going to work. Yes, the magic spoke. I've actually seen it happen. It's pretty interesting. Only ever seen it once, but it definitely did happen. Tony says I'm at the 40-minute mark. Holy crap, yes I am. Magic smoke escaped. Joe is encouraging everyone to like the stream. I hope you all do. As Haley goes, oh yeah. Yes, Tony's on track to do a proper live stream. For those who don't know, Joe's rule is if you don't go an hour, he unsubscribes from you. And I don't want Joe to unsubscribe from my channel, so I gotta fill at least an hour. I think I said hi, DJ Ware, before. Hello. David says, scary horror stories. This is great. Real entertainment. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. That was the whole point. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the stories. Toro says 6 likes, 6 watching. So perfect. 100%. Awesome. Thank you guys for liking the stream. Oh, this says 10 concurrent views and 9 likes. So my stats say something different. Now 11 viewers. David says, since there are many stories, maybe we can have a double Joe stream. What is that? I don't think I follow that. Sorry, David. I'm glad to see you all back. I love that we got a regular group of people here. It's awesome that you all are joining. I appreciate it. I think the only person we're missing is Keith and Bob Carpenter. So 2 out of 12, 14. It's pretty cool. I really do appreciate you guys being here. Oh, go for 2 hours. Oh, I don't know about that. I think I did have one stream go close to 2 hours, maybe 2 hours, and I think I did have one stream go 2 hours, but we'll see. I got more stories to tell. And if you guys have any tech stories or tech horror stories, since it's Halloween, please post them in the chat. I would love to read them. I'm sure everyone would get a kick out of them. So please, if you have a horror story, post it. All right, so what story are we on? That was story number 7. Yeah, story number 7. I have 14. So we are halfway, 47 minutes in. So we're doing pretty good. So this next story is actually also involves a transmitter site, and this picture is about 5 feet to the right of the previous picture that you just saw. This is I want to say early 90s UPS. I could be wrong. I just know it's old. It's been there for a while. So, oh, hold on. Haley says I got to read a comment, so let me put it on the screen. My scary story is when the power goes out here. Oh, don't worry about it.
Yep. That's
Okay.
mine.
Okay, we're going to take a detour from our storytelling. We're now going to tell a different story.
True story.
A very true story. We had just bought the house, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we had just bought the house. Now, the people who previously owned this house had wired the basement in what I call a six-pack fashion. Basically, they bought 6 packs for their friends, and they finished the basement. The basement had issues. So, I was trying to undo the electrical issues that they had. And basically, they had wired the basement off of the first floor circuits instead of wiring the circuits to the panel that was 10 feet or 20 feet that way. So, I'm downstairs and we're trying to undo some of this stuff. And I basically cut into a wire that was live, hence tripping the breaker, causing the power to go out. But I knew what I did, so I yelled from downstairs to don't worry about it, that everything's okay, but yet the lights are out because I had tripped the circuit that was up here, actually this room, I believe. I think. I don't know. But basically I tripped the circuit from downstairs by cutting into the wire that she was using for light. So.
And the next time you said, hey, if power goes out, call 911. And I had no faith as it was, so that was also pretty scary. What?
So thank you, honey, for joining our live stream and reminding me of the time that I killed the power and said, don't worry about it.
You're welcome. I got advertised.
Oh, Joe posted a story. I was about to go live for a wedding live stream, like bride coming down the aisle, and we lost power and stopped the bride from walking. Ooh, that would be, yeah. I have a pretty, well, I have a 100% unanimous list, no weddings. I don't do weddings of any kind. I don't take pictures for weddings. I don't videotape weddings. I've been asked several times to do it. I just do not want to do it. So props to you, Joe, for even taking on that business because I don't want to touch that. I will do all kinds of broadcasts, but I don't want to be responsible for a wedding. David has an IT story. I accidentally disabled a NIC on a remote machine in a different city. Ooh, yeah, that would not be good. Having to drive there to fix it when you disabled it, and you're probably the only person who can enable it, so therefore you have to go there. Toro says he's been there. Yeah, enable your, I want to say IPAM, but ILO ports. Are they all called that? I forget what they're called. I'm thinking the ones that work are not ILO. They're iDRAC? Or no, is that it? No. Wow, I can't think. Yeah, no, definitely don't want to touch that. I would do all kinds of things, but not a wedding. Is that by choice, Joe, or is that because you are forced to, or whatever? I'm curious why you're out of that business. Ooh, Tony says 2006, the day you were appointed tech supervisor, you accidentally did all the emails. Oops. Did you have backups? Please tell me you had backups. I really hope you had backups of that. Oh yeah. Can I have a Kleenex? People just have Uber expectations for wedding. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, okay, so it's your choice. Um, Thank you. So thank you guys for sharing your stories. I appreciate that. Keep sharing if you have more as they come to you.
I have another one.
Oh boy.
You'll notice a theme is when Jay has his best friend over when I'm not home. And it's what you guys doing? And I hear Don't worry about it. That's the theme. And then the Nerd Wall was born.
Hey, my nerd wall is popular on YouTube.
I'm sure it is.
Tony says he had backups, so that's good. Toro says he wants to see a picture of the nerd wall. I have a picture of the nerd wall. I have a whole YouTube video about my nerd wall. It's go back, look up it's 10 gig upgrade. I think it is. Yeah, Tora, go back. I have a whole video about upgrading the switches on my nerd wall, and I show a whole video and explain what's all in it and whatnot. So go back and look. Or maybe Tony can post a link to it. I think because Tony's a mod, he can actually share the link if he wants to go look it up. Joe says I should duct tape myself to the nerd wall.
Yep. Oh, that gives me ideas.
Oh, God.
Pin the tail on the nerd.
Puka, what do you want? Oh. My dog wants up here, everybody, so you can say hi to my dog, Puka. Look, Puka.
Oh, we should put her costume on for Halloween. Keep holding.
Do you guys want to see her costume? It'd be a viral vid. Oops. Joe says yes.
You gotta get her.
Oop.
She's hiding. I got her. I think.
So David says, "How about the story when I set group policy? I get group policy open, and when I reached up to the mouse, I hit something on the back keyboard, which caused." Ooh, what'd you do? What'd you disable, or what did you knock out? Oh, I unlinked the GPO. Okay, that would make sense. So, since Joe asked for a costume, here we go. She's a unipook.
Hey, Puka corn.
Or Pukacorn. We're not, either one will work. She is obviously not amused.
This is her scary story of the night.
This is her scary story. She does not like wearing uniform or outfits.
Yeah.
So. Oh, she wants it off. Now she's scratching. Alrighty, where were we? Besides the fact that we get kind of derailed.
Sorry.
You're fine. Joe says it's better than pooper corn. He also said very cute.
Super corn.
Oh, there you go, Toro. Tony posted the link to the video. So, I appreciate that, Tony. Alright, so, where are we at? We are on story 8. So, again, this is a picture of a transmitter, or, sorry, a UPS. So, I get a phone call one morning. Again, these things always happen on the weekend. Or in the mornings or whatever. So, I get a phone call, it says we're off the air. I turn TV on. Of course, we're not off the air. We're definitely on the air. We're just broadcasting nothing. So that tells me that the transmitter is operating normally. It just doesn't have an input. But of course, I don't know why it doesn't have an input. I'm just at home watching on my TV. So it's Saturday morning. There are kids programming supposed to be on. Kids programming, for those who don't know, is very important. It's an FCC requirement. You can't screw it up. Or if you do, you got to do a lot of paperwork and processing of, basically, here's what happened, here's how we're going to make it up, so on and so forth. So you don't want to screw up kids programming. And we're in prime kids programming. So I start driving to work. And of course, the transmitter site is further away from the house than the station is. So we're talking about a 40-minute drive for me to get there. So I call the station, and my friend is working. I said, hey, why don't you just go to the transmitter site? You're already close. You're closer than I am. Maybe I can talk you through it. So they start driving there. And then when we get there, they tell me that several of the racks are just off. They're dead. There's no power. So, okay, we lost power somehow. But we're still in the air. So now I'm thinking, okay, we got to have a bad UPS, but which one? So I walk in, and see this UPS in this completely dead state. Nothing. And of course, it feeds like every rack in the building. Luckily, there was a way to bypass it to the right. I don't remember if it was a switch or if you literally unplug the cable and plug the cable into a different outlet. I don't remember exactly. But either way, it was a 2-second fix, but ended up being an hour plus of, driving there, trying to figure out what's going on, realizing this is a bad UPS, bypassing it, getting us back on the air, and then, of course, driving home. It was also very nerve-wracking because now we have no UPS on all your electronics that drive the TV station, the transmitter, I should say. And there was no way to fix it. This was a big UPS. We didn't have other UPSs around, so we had to chance it for several days on no UPS. Luckily, we didn't have a power hit or anything like that, so we were able to get through it. But it was just, aggravating to have a UPS die on you on a Saturday morning. I feel like maybe it died in a newscast, and then we were going into children's programming. I don't remember exactly, but it was definitely a horror story of finding this dead UPS. All right, so Tony also posted part 1. So Toro, watch both or either one. I'm not quite sure, but they're not very long videos, so you could watch both of them, and you'll see the nerd wall. Toro says that he was due to configuration change. Cat walks on the keyboard, everything goes to crap. I can imagine. That does not sound like a fun adventure. All right, so that was story number 8. I'm gonna probably skip that one. Let's do the story number. I'm gonna call it 9 because it's labeled number 9, but it's if we have time, I'll come back to the other one. So, for those who don't know, there's a thing called site surveys. It's where you go out and you basically survey the site you're going to broadcast from or whatever. Yes, Tony, I just answered your private chat. Yes. So you do site surveys. If you've never been to a location, you generally will send somebody out there to do a site survey and take pictures or take measurements or scope whatever it is you're doing. In this story, we were going to do a live shot from Columbus on election night. And we're not in Columbus, so we didn't, we generally would say, someone go to Columbus, check out what's going to happen, make sure we can get a satellite shot out of here, and we're good to go. So we sent somebody down to Columbus to do a site survey, and they basically said, yeah, you're good. Well, this person we sent down was not a satellite person. So they went down there and basically looked at the sky and said, yep, you're good. There's sky. Well, that's great, except that you kind of need to see a certain part of the sky for satellite. So we send our operator down there on election night, and he shows up, parks the truck. He's trying to find the satellite, and you find the satellite, the right one, by basically finding any satellites, and then you stair step. You hop to the next one over and over again until you find the right one. So he's going from satellite to satellite, and then there's nothing. So he keeps going, and he finds more satellites. So he comes back, and there's nothing. And that's the one where he has to be. That's the one we've already booked satellite time on. So he calls me at the station. I'm back in the station. He's down in Columbus. And he goes, I can't see it. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't see it? And so he sends me this picture. There was a giant hotel in the way of the satellite that he was supposed to be on, therefore blocking the entire view of the satellite. The one we had paid for, the one we were supposed to be on. So now what do? You can't move the truck. As you see, there's no parking spaces available, and I'm pretty sure we were already at the limit of our cable run, and this is where we were supposed to be. We didn't have any option. So now what do? So on the phone with him, I start looking at the satellites from the station point of view to figure out, okay, what satellites can he see or could we use instead? So I think he sent me a picture of the one he was looking at. And if you remember earlier, that little graph where you had the big hump and then the smaller humps next to it, that's a satellite spectrum. He was sending me pictures like that, I think, of like what he was looking at, and I was kind of matching it. So I finally find a signal that basically looks like the one might work, and it was 105 degrees. Now normally we are on satellite at 99 degrees, called Galaxy 16. I'm now finding one at 105. It looks like he's looking at it, so I happened to find a slate that said like analog or EchoStar 105. It was in analog. We could view it. More importantly, he could view it in the truck to confirm that's what he's looking at. So now we had to order satellite time on this EchoStar 105, which we had never used before. I don't know if we even had contact information for who owned it. Turns out it was EchoStar, so luckily that was a pretty easy one to figure out. And we had to book satellite time on this thing. So then the joke was, send somebody who knows what they're doing to do site surveys. Don't rely on just anyone to go do a site survey because it matters a lot. So looks like Tony is posting links to other creators who are here. Jason's Lab and DJ Ware both have channels. Tony has a channel, if you don't know that. Don't forget to share your channel, Tony.
I'm gonna start a channel.
Haley is actually going to start a channel all about essential oils. So
And other natural products.
and other natural products. So once she starts that channel, I will share that link with all of you. Yeah, David says, dang that hotel. Yeah, Amir would be, I mean, you just get bounced back to you, unfortunately, but could help, I guess. Could bounce it. Actually, you can bounce RF. In microwave world, you can actually bounce RF off of buildings. We've actually done that a lot in downtown because there are several skyscrapers. We can actually bounce them off of the building and actually get signals that way. But satellite does not work that way, but microwave does. Tony says that's very cool, Haley.
Thank you.
Yes. So, okay. So that was story number 10. So now we're going to go to another story about a presidential visit. This one was about, it's a two-part story. It happened the same day. We got a brand new satellite truck. That truck you just saw in the previous picture was retired. We got a brand new one. Now, our live truck was built in Florida. That's important to the story because for this live shot, I was in Michigan. So I'm driving up to Michigan, going up here in this early morning. It's like 6 a.m. It's also wintertime. It's cold. I'm driving up this highway, and I hit the windshield wipers to get rid of some gunk on the roads because it's wintertime. There's, slush and whatnot. I hit the windshield wiper fluid. It sprays out, and now my windshield is frozen. Over. Like I can't see out the windshield. And I'm like, oh crap, now this is not good. So I pull over to the side of the road and with my scraper clean off the windshield. So get it free of ice. I start driving again, and of course now the windshield gets gunked up again. Only I can't use my windshield wiper blade or my washer fluid because it's just frozen or it's going to freeze over again. Because it turns out in Florida, they don't use the nice windshield wiper fluid that has antifreeze into it or, antifreeze stuff in it. They just use plain water. And nobody had thought about that because it was a brand new truck. They knew where we were. I guess we all figured that it would be the right stuff, but it wasn't. So I had to pull over a second time to clean the windshield off. And then I found the nearest gas station I could find and had to buy the good washer fluid that had the antifreeze stuff in it to use that. And I remember in the gas station pumping or pouring this into this truck. And of course, with the Secret Service, as we previously discussed, they have their rules, they're secure, they do things their way, you got to follow their method. We were told to be on location by a certain time or else you're not getting in. So I was like panicking because now I'm basically like, hey, need to get there. So we get there and now we are parked in this back and it's muddy. It's wintertime, but it's not actually like snowing. And so we are setting up in mud, or at least maybe it was snowing earlier. It had melted. I forget exactly this scenario. But basically now we are outside this high school and we are in the mud. And these satellite trucks are heavy. So this is the picture of the satellite trucks getting towed out by a pickup truck with four-wheel drive because none of the trucks could actually get out without help. Especially not the one in the back, because that was the furthest one back. My truck, which is on the left-hand side right there, was actually one of the ones closer to the front, and I don't recall having to need help getting out, but people definitely did. The guy in the picture who's at an angle definitely needed towed out. He could not get out on his own, and so you got a wonderful morning with antifreeze or with a windshield wiper fluid that doesn't have antifreeze in it, and then you get stuck in the mud. It just, par for the course when it comes to television. Joe is asking if you will do live streams on your channel.
Me?
Yes.
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 I'm going to do live classes too.
Yeah, she's going to do live classes and live presentations. Joe says TV sounds scary. I wouldn't say it's scary. It's definitely an adventure. That's for sure. You never really know what you're going to get. All right, so what story are we on next? That was that. Okay, so you guys shared earlier one of your IT or some of your IT stories. Now I have an IT story that's simply IT, and Toro. TV's like a box of chocolates.
I was just thinking the same thing. You never know what you're going to get.
Good one. I like that. And Joe is asking you, Haley, will I produce your live stream?
If you're lucky.
All right, so this next story, did I just freeze? I just froze.
Yeah, I can't get on my site. I just froze too. This is a nightmare. See what I did there?
I did. Oh, goody. That OBS webcam issue happened again. Well, crap. Hold on, guys. Let me try to get my camera back. Apparently, OBS does not like, or OBS, the new version, has definite issues because this is definitely not happy at all. And I actually started the stream late because of this issue. So, hey, I'm back. So, yeah, so sorry you saw a preview of the story where it's going. So, again, and we're in the office one day. I get a phone call from an editor. Hey, this story I'm trying to download isn't working. It just keeps saying, I keep downloading it and it keeps not working. And I'm like, well, okay, where are you getting the story from? So he tells us that he's downloading it from a website that we use for news content. And so I open up the folder path, to go find this file. And below this file, it says ransomware. And I'm like, why is there a folder? Oh, crap. So I said to my boss, who was the IT manager at the time, basically, I think we're getting ransomwared. And he says, go pull the connections now. So I run down the hall. Now, I'm like the opposite end of the building, kind of from the rack room. I run as fast as I can to the rack room, run in, and go right to the server that has this video on it. And it has 4 network connections. And I yank all 4 as fast as I can. And now, of course, nobody in the building can edit because I just unplugged the edit server. So what was happening was this ransomware was eating its way through our video editing server that the video editors were using. It's also the same one that our reporters use. So, not good. So now that we've unplugged it, we at least stopped the damage to an extent. We don't know what else is attacking. So we go in the newsroom and basically anybody's computer acting funky, any messages on the screen that you aren't familiar with, basically, please help us, we're having an issue. And a reporter raises their hands like, yeah, this is on my screen. I don't know what's going on. Nothing's working. So I walk over, and this reporter has Outlook open, and it's got a screen that says basically, please send Bitcoin or whatever it said at the time. I don't think it was Bitcoin, but it could have been. And basically, I can tell this computer is the infection point. So, of course, I just immediately unplug it from the network and close the laptop and just take it from her. Because now she's done. Or it's a computer. It wasn't a laptop. It was a computer. So I pull the CPU and I just take it away from her. Because, obviously this is the point of the infection. We've now stopped the damage by unplugging the server. And so we, take it back. Of course, now we're trying to figure out, okay, what else is gone? We're looking at stuff. Everything else seems normal. It seems quiet all of a sudden. So we plug the editing server back in and do damage assessment. And we basically have figured out that we've lost whole folders worth of video. Lots of saved clips, lots of stuff we've used all the time is just gone. And we don't have a backup of this because it's basically daily use video or permanent clips, as we call it, basically clips we use over and over again. So we probably should have had a backup of that, but most of the video we lost was daily video. Video that was shot that day that was being edited by a videographer or reporter and then used for that newscast that night. So this is a picture of the hard drive we took out, and I had this on a shelf. This had the person's name on it, but I removed that for the stream. So this hard drive sat on my shelf at work for probably several years just because this was the only machine I've ever seen where it had a virus. I knew it had a virus, and it was just there. So we kept it for the longest time because it was just kind of funny to have this virus. We knew this hard drive had a virus on it, so we kept it. And for years around the station, this person's name was synonymous with that virus and us losing all the video. So to this day, you can still mention that person's name, and people know what you're talking about. Toro says he has that exact model. I think everybody did at one point. That was a very popular hard drive. Like every Dell machine we got had that hard drive in it for a long time. All right, so that was story 12 in my list. What?
I can't get the house to.
It's on. It's working. I don't know.
About to have another nightmare.
Uh-oh. About to have another nightmare. Nightmare on Elm Street? Oh boy.
I'll do it. I'll
Oh.
flip my switch.
She's threatening to turn the lights off on me. So yeah, so that was story 12 in my list. The other horror story that is kind of always in my mind is the Master Control project from about 10 years ago. We launched this brand new HD Master Control. First time the station's been HD. We actually were launching two stations in one, so we were doing two Master Controls in one, you know, thing. And I could, that's a whole different, I mean, that story could be, I could tell that story for half hour about the issues that happened. But the horror story, the part that I remember the most is basically long hours. I mean, 12-hour days of trying to get the station to work. We had to convert video from our old server format into this new server format, and it wasn't working. And nobody could tell us why. And they basically said, figure it out. And basically they were like, if you can't figure it out, you got to re-put in all your commercials. I mean, you're talking about maybe thousands of commercials you got to put back in manually. I mean, can you imagine the time that would take to put in? I mean, it takes you 5 minutes to put a 30-second commercial in, because at that time you had to get the tape out, put it in the machine, play it, capture the video, mark the in and out points, give it all its data, verify that it's correct, save it. I mean, it was a process. It was a 5-minute process to do a 30-second commercial, give or take. So to redo that was going to be crazy. There was just no way. We had to make this work. But we couldn't figure it out. Some files would come over, some files wouldn't come over. So then, a guy who I will forever be indebted to, named Bob Pindar, who was just a great guy, love him. He somehow got involved. I don't remember how he got involved, but he actually wrote us a script that went into the video file, looked for mismatched audio formats. So basically, on the video, there were several audio tracks. And for some reason, our server was set up, our old server was set up, where if you put the spot in manually, you had 4 tracks with identical audio types, like 24-bit, 48K audio. If you put the spot in and it came from a digital advertiser or basically a syndicator, you had mismatched audio. So tracks 1 and 2 would be maybe 16-bit audio with 48 kilohertz, or and then you had tracks 3 and 4 that were 24-bit. Well, the transcoder at the time we were using couldn't deal with audio that didn't match. So if you had 16-bit and 24-bit, it kicked it back to you, and it said no good. So we were talking about thousands of files that would just not transfer, and we had no idea why. So Bob Pindar, again, thank you, he wrote a software package that went into the video file, looked for the mismatched audio. If it had mismatched audio, it dumped channels 3 and 4 so that the video transcoder would process the audio correctly, because we didn't need audio on 3 and 4. In fact, we didn't want any audio on 3 and 4. But to go into a file, do an inspection, figure out what channels were what, dump the channels you didn't need, and then put it back together, all automated. I mean, like I said, we racked our brains on this for 12 hours a day for days, trying to figure out how to get around this problem. And luckily, he wrote us a software package that did it and solved so many of our issues. This part's a two-parter because once we got them all converted, now we're running our, all our commercial spots and whatnot in this brand new master control. And we had a deadline, a absolutely drop dead deadline we had to meet. And so here we are, basically launching this new master control, and it's an all digital master control. It's HD. It's cool and great and awesome, and we just can't get the server to play the right file formats because we're just having all these issues. Now we had brand new encoder or brand new what do they call them, media players or media ports, I think they were called, and they were supposed to be able to play any format. So you could play 720p, 1080i, 480i. It didn't matter. It would play them all. It was great. Well, it turns out that technology was not exactly refined. So much so that the vendors who we were calling for support said their products didn't do that. Literally, support was like, we don't make a product that does that. And we were like, yes, you do. We have it in our hands. We need help. The firmware was so new, we were getting firmware versions of like 7.0.0.1. So we had the file issue, we had format for these media ports that was brand new and no one knew about. So here we are, launch day, ready to go live, and the stuff's not playing video correctly. So in our brand new tapeless master control facility, the first thing we aired was a Maury Povich, I believe, off of tape. So, brand new master control, HD, all tapeless, and the first thing we air is a tape. Because, of course. Again, there's more to that story, but yeah, basically that was the gist. Those are the three biggest problems we had with that conversion, and that one still to this day is a nightmare that I just still can't believe we actually got through. And it was running until a year ago April. Then we shut it down. So let me go back to the chat. Okay. Virus, maybe, yeah, okay. You should donate that hard drive to Unky Joe. No, I'm not gonna. I don't even have that hard drive anymore. Joe asked, have you ever had dead air for a long period of time? Yeah, we've been off the air. Not very often. As I said one time on Facebook, when YouTube was down, even YouTube was down for like minutes, I said that year, YouTube had more downtime than my station did. Because we had no downtime that year. And here YouTube is off the air, or down, or off the air for minutes. And I was like, hey, we have more uptime than they do. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we've been off the air. I mean, I can't remember exactly scenarios in which we were, but I mean, I'm sure we've been off the air at times. I know the radio station I work at has been off the air for hours at times due to automation failures or due to whatever. But the TV station, no, we got enough redundancy that we basically, no, we are never off the air for very long. Or we're on the air, we're just not broadcasting something. We've done that before. But yeah, no, our uptime is impeccably good for both video and just being on the air, period. So having video on the air or being on the air, we do pretty good. Is there a slate if you are off the air that comes on from another source? No. I mean, if you're watching cable or satellite, yes, they will switch to a slate. But if we're off the air because our transmitter's down, we're off the air, you can't receive us. If we're off the air because we just have no video playing out, there's no automated process that'll say that. we used to have a trouble slate. If we had issues, we would pop up, but that requires a manual operator, and we don't really have those anymore. So no, there's no more trouble slates, at least these days. All right, so I have I have one more story to tell. It's story 14. I think I did skip one, but so we'll do lucky 13. So the final story, and I might make that 2 hour mark after all. Um, so for those who don't know, TV stations have are all synced together, or all the video devices in a TV station are linked together with reference, and that's basically an analog video signal. It's just black. There's nothing on it, but it's just an analog video signal that every machine gets fed, and then you time it so that the sync pulses in this video are received at every piece of equipment at the exact same time. So that when you change from video sources, from source A to source B, it's a clean cut. There's no weird tearing or no weird, like, you see half a picture from each one. So that's called reference or blackburst. And our facility has, years of growth. So we've had, stuff from the 90s get upgraded, and converted, and then things added onto and changed over and whatnot. And even though we are HD, it's still, a lot of things still require an analog blackburst or reference. So, it's just a random day at work. We're just nothing spectacular is going on. One of the maintenance guys is in the racks cleaning up some stuff, and he was in the older part of the plant, and so basically he's just cleaning up some stuff. We were trying to phase over to some new gear, or convert over, I should say, and so he's cleaning up some old stuff, and all of a sudden, the video in the whole plant across all the channels just starts kind of cycling through. And if you've never seen this, basically what happens is, if video is drawn like this, across the line, at least intensity interlaced, it's drawn, lines like this across the screen, even in odd pairs. And every time it would draw a line, you basically would have video go up, 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 so it's just slowly rolling up the screen. And so my head would be, here, but then eventually I would be going like this, and I'd go off the screen, then I would come back on the screen down here, and you just roll. So that means you've lost reference. Your video just is not timed anymore. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. So of course we have redundant sync generators, so we tried failing over to the second one, because maybe we thought, maybe the first one died. They're older. Maybe that's what happened. Failing over didn't solve the problem. We're like, well, now this is weird. I mean, you failed over, you have redundancy for a reason, and it's not working. So it's like 4:15, maybe in the afternoon. Our newscast is supposed to go on the air at 5 o'clock. We don't know what's happening. We don't know why it's happening. Everybody's getting involved. I mean, everyone's walking in. What can we do to help? So I say, pull the SAT truck outside. We will set up a studio outside. We can patch in, if we have to, our hardwire patch in the satellite truck into the encoder and just bypass the whole plant, and so we can figure out what's going on. And we just could not. I mean, this is minutes. Now, we're airing a show. Like, Dr. Phil is airing on TV. So, but it's just constant roll. So it's just not right. And both stations, are doing the same thing. And I was like, hey, to the maintenance guy, I'm like, what were you doing? Like, what was the last thing you were working on before this happened? Did you cut the wrong cable? Did you do whatever? And he was like, yeah, I just removed this one cable. And so we're looking around it, we're looking at it. I'm like, did you plug anything in? What did you do? And it turns out he accidentally unplugged a cable and plugged it into a different distribution amplifier, which is basically a fancy splitter. And so he had moved this cable over, and we actually had created a loop. Sorry, he didn't do it. Somebody in the previous had created this loop, and when he unplugged this cable and went to plug it back in, the loop basically was still broadcasting the old reference, and now it had a different reference on it. So now we have this loop that's been playing video, that's playing the same video over itself, and he's introduced a new one, and it's just still looping, but now you have two different references getting looped over and over again because the DA output was fed into DA input on the previous card and had created this loop. So the minute we figured this out, that basically we had a loop, we unplugged the loop, problem went away instantly, crisis avoided. But that was like one of the most chaotic scenes I had ever been a part of, because it was like we had no idea how to stop it, because we had no idea what was causing it. It wasn't the main sync generator, it wasn't the backup unit. It was just like, wait, where is this coming from? I mean, it almost felt like you were getting pranked or hacked or whatever it was, because it made no sense. This is an all analog platform. Like, you don't expect us to have issues, and yet here we are. And so luckily we figured it out before the newscast started. But that was the weirdest one. To this day, I just like, how did that ever happen? And how did it ever work? Because this loop was there before, but it had just never been a problem for some reason. And then when he was moving cables, he somehow made it a problem. So very weird, very unusual, very just like, you want to pull your hair out going, how did that even happen? How did that possible? And yet it was. So let's check with the chat one last time before we sign off. Have you ever had a national feed stop feeding? Yeah, we've had network feeds that basically, had issues with. We've had issues where the satellite, like, the feed will be stopped for whatever reason or have an issue, and you got to take a different feed. That's happened before. Our master control was basically down a hallway. Like, our building's an L shape, and master control was like here, and was down a hallway, and my office is like down here, and the newsroom is down, where my hand is. We no longer have a master control room per se. It's not there anymore because we got hubbed out of Charlotte. So, but that master control room was there for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Someone was in there. Actually, a lot of times there were two people in there running the station for 9 years until we got hubbed. What do you use for your clock? Well, the clock data, like the time, is actually fed from GPS. So we have a GPS receiver that acts as our master clock for all the clocks in the building. For the reference, we have two sync generators that basically generate this analog video. They go into a failover unit, and then with the push of a button, you can fail over between either one. And it's supposed to automatically do it too. Like, if one just shuts off, the other reference generator will just take over automatically, because this failover unit's smart enough to realize, hey, I lost my input, switch to the second one. Which, during that black burst reference issue, was the confusing part, because, like, both were running, but it didn't matter. Did you get complaints about Dr. Phil being loopy? I don't recall having any issues. The viewers are actually pretty, for the most part, viewers are pretty forgiving about things. Toro says, well, I need to bug my uncle to get a tour of his TV station in northern Michigan. Oh, yeah, your uncle's in TV. Do you mean like the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, or like northern part of Michigan? Because the Upper Peninsula, they have some TV stations up there. Just trying to think of what market that would be. Oh, okay. So yeah, so like Traverse City or wherever. What is the craziest complaint? Um, the first one that comes to mind is we were not airing the football game that the person wanted to watch. Yeah, is that how that went? So, yeah, if I remember correctly, there are three networks that air football games: CBS, Fox, and NBC. And if there's a game on CBS, that game is not on Fox, or vice versa. So on Sunday, if you're the CBS station and you're airing, let's say, the Packers game, and if you're the Fox station and you're airing the Patriots game, you can't air the other one. Like you just can't decide to air someone else's game. Or let's say um, the Eagles are on Fox, but the Fox station's airing the Packers game, or sorry, the Patriots game. That you can't just watch that game somewhere else. So we've had viewers call in and be mad that we're not airing the game they want to see, and then tell us basically, I'll go watch it on another station. You guys suck. I want to watch my game. I'm never going to watch your station ever again. I'm going to go watch someone else's station. And it's like, if you wanted to watch the Packers game and we don't have it, they're not going to have it either. Like, like they can't just change their game. And so people just do not understand how the broadcasting rules work. And um, like they'll be like, well, you should air whatever game, the Packers game, you should air the Browns game, you should air whatever game I want to watch. And it's like, well, that doesn't work that way. We have rules we have to follow, and we don't even get to decide what games we air. Sometimes we have to ask the networks, like, can we air this game instead? And often they say no. So they yell at us, even though it's not our fault. It's the sport, the NFL or whoever, usually the NFL. So they'll get mad at like us over the fact that we're not airing the game they want to see because the NFL is forcing us to air the game the NFL wants us to see or air. And so it's viewers like that are just like, um, well, I want to watch this, and if you can't show me this, I'm gonna watch somebody else. And it's like, you can't watch somebody else. There's nobody else who's gonna have that game because that's a game we have, but we're not airing that, or whatever that network has. So, hopefully that made sense. I probably didn't make the best sense of that one, but yeah, I mean, I know you don't have Facebook, Joe, but if you get on Ashley's Facebook page and scroll back on a couple of mine profile posts, I always post funny viewer ones, like today from the viewer file. My favorite viewer ones are when they call and they don't have their voicemail box set up, so they demand a phone call back, and you call them back, and then they're like, "You can't leave a voicemail." So, get that a lot where it's like, "I demand a phone call," and so I call them back, and then like, I can't leave a message. Um, the other ones will be like they'll call and they're irate, and they'll tell you suck, like, "Hey, you know, you guys suck because whatever," and it's like I call them back and they go, "Oh, I didn't know someone was actually going to listen to that voicemail." And it's like, you left it. We listen to voicemails. And I make it a point to call viewers back because if they took the time to call in, as long as they're not crazy and not swearing at us, I will call you back. A lot of times viewers call in and be like, "Hey, I want you to increase your power so I can get better reception." And I have to explain to them I'm not allowed to do that. Or viewers will call in and say, "You're blocking my reception. You don't want me to watch." And I'm like, why would I do that? Why would I not want you to watch? You're a viewer. I get paid for the number of people who watch the station. I want you to watch the station. I'm not blocking your access to the station. But people think we're doing that. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. I will have to send you some of the craziest voicemails. if I can find like a list of them or something like that. I think I have one. Or I can make one. Um, but yeah, so I mean, usually it's about programming. That's usually the biggest issue. They want you to error their program or they whatever it is. Without any. Yeah, NFL rules are the NFL rules. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, we definitely get political. We definitely get political complaints. Um, but it's funny because I actually get complaints from both sides. Literally, like I'll get a complaint that we're too liberal. I'll get a complaint that we're too conservative. That we're not going after so and so. And it's like if we're getting complaints from both sides, then to me that tells me we're playing the right down the middle. Um, I'm sure most people don't see it that way, but we do get complaints. Literally, I've gotten a complaint on one day from the left. I've got a complaint the next day from the right. It happens more often than you would think. Um, so, but anyway, I need to go. I'm tired. It's almost been 2 hours, but I'm not going to go 2 hours. So, again, I want to thank everyone for joining. I loved the attendance tonight, the participation as always. Hopefully, I'll be back here next Monday. Uh, Thank you guys. I appreciate you. And have a safe night.